Hello, my friends. My name is Adam, and I'm on a quest to become the most prolific reviewer of all time. And usually I do that by rating television shows, movies, and books, because those are things that actually kind of lend themselves to a YouTube video, kind of like a talking head video like this. But I am like a huge fan of music as well. And I can't really I haven't really come up with any good way of reviewing music yet. So today I'm going to try to do one thing, which is I'm going to listen to a whole album and then I'm going to like review the songs one by one, and I'll like pause the video and then I'll give you my reaction. And you can find the album yourself. You don't have to like listen along, but if it's something that you are interested in, you can find it. Especially with the album I'm going to talk about today, which is Rubber Soul from 19. Uh, when did Rubber Soul come out? It's a Beatles album, I know, of course, but when did it come out? Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul came out in 1965. Crazy that it came out in 1965. So I'm gonna play the first song to myself, not on YouTube because I don't want to get a copyright strike, but I'm gonna play the first song to myself. I'm gonna pause the video and I'm gonna come back and tell you what I thought about it. Okay, so Drive My Car. If you've never heard it, it's a sort of it's not really hard rock, but I would say it's like a classic rock kind of vibe. It's the story of a woman who needs a driver and this guy who's kind of hitting on her a little bit. And she's like, I need a car, I need a driver, I'm going to be a star. You can be my driver, and that's it, basically. So it's kind of a straightforward little story song. Um, the music has this sort of like really driving rhythm. There's Ringo on the cowbell, and the Beatles usually don't have like these huge kind of virtuoso solos, but there is a nice little solo from George Harrison in the middle of the song, and the riff is pretty nice, like doo doo doo. I'm not gonna do it because first of all, I don't quite remember the notes, but I mean, it's Drive My Car, you know what the riff is. So that's nice. And another thing that's interesting about the production of it is you can hear the three voices, right? You can hear George's, Paul's, and John's. And Paul he's the driving voice of this, but then you hear John on the harmony and all of that. And Paul, he's had the reputation, especially around the time of this album, as being like the cute Beatle, but I think his voice is very like, it's the biggest range of any of them. So he can be like kind of a boisterous voice, if that makes sense, or he can be like a soft and delicate one. Yeah, so it works really good in this sort of rockin' number. I would give it maybe like, I don't know. Is it the best Beatles song? No. But then the interesting thing about Beatles songs is that if this had been, I don't know, Manfred Mann or something, this would be their greatest hit, right? And you'd see later they'd be touring on the basis of this. But the Beatles have much better songs and much better albums and stuff. So I'm going to give it like a 7. Okay, the next song on the album. Okay, the next song on the album is Norwegian Wood, which is a completely different song. You have John's solo voice, um, and he's joined by Paul. There's not really a chorus to the song, but there's like some refrain. and so Paul joins in the refrain. And the story of the song is basically like this guy goes to a woman's house and they have a good time. And I think that he is expecting something more to happen, but she's not interested. And so she basically says, like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I have to go to work tomorrow. And he's like, well, I don't. And then he goes to sleep in the bath because he's a gentleman. He's not going to sleep in the same bed if she doesn't want him to. So when he wakes up, she's gone to work, and I'm not going to go play it back again because I kind of like my interpretation. And, the thing about art is that it's very subjective. You can interpret it uh, any which way you want. And basically, one of the things that she says earlier in the evening is that, oh, she's got this nice Norwegian, like, wood furniture or whatever. And the last thing the guy says is, I lit a fire, isn't it good, Norwegian wood? So my idea is that he's actually destroyed the furniture to make a fire, and then he's a bit of a pyromaniac and he like leaves. So you got, like, on the one hand this sort of bittersweet love song, but like if you start to think about the actual story of the song, it's about a guy who's a psychopath, basically. The instrumentation is also interesting to talk about in the song because basically it's like light drums and guitar, but Harrison decided, I think I remember seeing something where Harrison decided that a sitar should be added, and so there's like this sort of exotic instrument in the middle of this sort of exotic story. And I don't know for sure, but this may have been like the first Western single with a sitar on it. So Harrison sort of was a setter because clearly in the late 60s there would be probably hundreds of songs with sitars on them. So if I was going to rate this song, and I am, because that's the whole premise of what I do here, I would give it like, uh, I don't know. I don't think that there's anything wrong with this song, actually. I think it's a perfect song. I think it's one of the Beatles' perfect songs. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. So I have Drive My Car 7 out of 10 and Norwegian Wood 10 out of 10. Okay, the next song on the album is You Won't See Me. And I was listening to it just now, and I think that I have some kind of complicated feelings about it because I think, in terms of structure, it's a great song. The harmonies are great. And then there's like this, you won't see me, you won't see me. It's like it's going up in terms of notes. And then there's this little like la 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 that they do, which is kind of like undercutting the whole message because it doesn't sound like it. It kind of sounds a bit funny, like it's a bit of a joke. And I think that's why I have mixed feelings about this because it's a great. It sounds good, but then like. Yeah, and you think that it's like this really serious situation, but if you know the backstory of it, basically, Paul McCartney was living in Jane Asher's house, and they were dating. And Jane Asher had met Paul McCartney because she had a career as a journalist, and she had some kind of, I don't know, she was doing something in Manchester, I believe, and the house is in London. So he's living there rent free. He's a rock star. He's living there. And basically, he's like, oh, I have some free time and she's not here. So she needs to like make her schedule around when I have free time. So basically, like, you won't see me. It's like, oh, you never do what I want you to do, basically. So it kind of feels like uh, it's a great song, but it feels a little bit immature if you know the context. But if you don't know the context, I think it's a song that has like this nice harmony. It feels good. to kind of hum. And it's one of those things that sticks in my mind anyway. Like Drive My Car is probably more famous song than this one, but this is the song that gets stuck in my head often. So I'm gonna give it, and I don't think it's a perfect song. I don't think it's like Norwegian Wood, but I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10. So the next song on the album is Nowhere Man. I have never liked this song. I'll have to be honest with you. I love the Beatles, but this is a song that just feels very pretentious. Like, I think that they started to listen to Dylan music before this time, and they were like, we need to write something poetic. And sometimes it really worked, like with Norwegian Wood. That's a real poem of a song. But Nowhere Man, thinking all his nowhere thoughts, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. I just think it's pretentious. It's like a 13-year-old, death poetry kind of thing. Like, oh, no one understands me, kind of. The melodies are really nice. So it kind of, and the harmonies are nice. So that's an advantage to it. But but I really don't like the song. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it musically. It's a well-produced song, but I don't like the lyrics. I don't like the point of the song. So I'm gonna give it, people are gonna kill me if they get this far in the video, but I'm gonna give it a 2. A 2 out of 10. All right, next song. Okay, the next song on the album is something theoretically that I should hate as much as Nowhere Man, but I don't. Actually, I think it's a pretty good song, even though it's also quite pretentious. This is George Harrison's Think for Yourself. It's got a great line. Even though your mind's opaque, try thinking more if only for your own sake. Great line. So basically, it's all about how um, these people are following people who are not that smart, and they're kind of like being tricked and deceived, which is interesting in his sort of spiritual journey, how he kind of finds some people who may have tricked and deceived him. But I think that's the problem with George Harrison. It's not a problem because it wasn't a problem, it's just the way he was, is that he's one of those people who he was one of those people who thought that he was the smartest guy in the room, you know. And I have thought about myself that way too. And it's a very common thing, I think, for somewhat intelligent people to do when they're men. It's a man thing, I think, when they're 19 or 20, which is around the time that he made this song. So basically, like, I'm so much smarter than you all, and you're all getting tricked and all of this stuff, which is interesting because he was in a band with two people who were like legitimately probably the most, like, in different ways, but they were some of the biggest musical geniuses of the last century, like Paul McCartney and John Lennon. So it's interesting the arrogance that he would be like, yeah, I'm the smart Beatle. I'm the smart one here, because that also takes a kind of intelligence. So I think it's weird because Paul McCartney and John Lennon seemed a lot more humble than George Harrison, and George Harrison always kind of rubs me the wrong way, even though he's incredibly talented. And because I think he never fit in with that duo exactly. And that tension kind of creates great art, I think. There's also, I don't know if it's like there's some kind of distortion on the guitar, which is a nice, interesting effect. I don't know how they did that, but it sounds good. So the song, even though it's as pretentious as Nowhere Man, I think it's a much better song. So I'm gonna give it like a 7 So 7 is like Drive My Car level, even though it's not as famous as Drive My Car, but it's a good song. All right, next song. Okay, the next song on the album is a song called The Word. And as I was listening to this, I realized this is like John Lennon's powerhouse of an album because you got The Word, Nowhere Man, which I don't like, but is super popular, and Norwegian Wood on the same album. And then maybe you have Paul with a commercial hit like Drive My Car, although I'm not sure who was the driving force behind that one. Maybe it was John Lennon as well. And then Think for Yourself from George, and You Won't See Me from Paul. But like the songs of Lennon on the album are a significantly higher caliber than the rest so far, anyway. And this is the first Beatles song where it's a love song, but it's not directed to any particular individual, fictional or real, but it's about the concept of love. And the way that it's constructed, the song, you have like these beautiful harmonies, like say the word is love. You have like these beautiful harmonies, and then Lennon himself kind of undercuts that beauty with like this harsh, direct, like insistent, like in the beginning I misunderstood. I forgot how the rest of the line goes, but he's like, in the beginning I misunderstood. Like it's very, very aggressive, and um Ringo's been quietly in the background providing like the rhythm to all of these songs, of course, but this is the one where you're like, oh yeah, Ringo's doing something here. Ringo's like on fire on this song, and then there's like an organ or something. So yeah, it's another great John Lennon song. I would give it, yeah, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. No notes. It's very good. All right, next song. Okay, the next song on the album is Michelle, and I was just saying how this is John Lennon's album, but listening to this song, then you realize the dynamics of the Beatles. Like, they sound like different bands from, album to album, but also song to song because they had like really talented musicians and songwriters in the band. And songs like Michelle are the reason why they were able to survive the 60s. I know that's like a bold statement, but if they hadn't had these like really pop hits, they wouldn't have been able to make a song like Norwegian Wood or Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in a few years. Um, but personally, I feel about Michelle like I feel about Nowhere Man. Maybe I hate Nowhere Man a little bit more, but for me, Michelle just seems like an overplayed Beatles song. But there's a reason it's overplayed, right? It's like a classic melody. The song is simple. The idea is simple about this person that you fall in love with, but there's this language barrier. And Michelle, ma belle, like it's catchy, right? It gets in your head. So I don't know. I haven't liked it very much in the past, but it is better than Nowhere Man, I think. So I'm gonna give it like a 5. I know, shocking. 5. Okay, and now for something completely different. The next song is Ringo's What Goes On. Like, what goes on in your heart? What goes on in your mind? It's like a country flavored thing. I'm not sure it's a Beatles original. And maybe this is just the problem with the version that I'm listening to, but it seems like, Ringo doesn't have a great singing voice, but it's a super distinctive voice. But it sounds like he's in another room and the rest of the band is like up front and center. So I don't like the mix in that. Yeah, and I don't know. I gave Michelle 5, so I can't give this much higher than 5. Though, it's a perfectly acceptable song. and it's on the album so that Ringo would have something to play in concerts, right? Because they were big fans of Ringo. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a. Well, I can give it more than Michelle because it's my review. Review is very subjective, so yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 6. It's not the best song. It's not the worst song. It's like an enjoyable song. All right, next song. Okay, the next song on the album is Girl, and I think it's another one of these John Lennon classic songs. Is there anybody going to listen to my story all about a girl who came to stay? She's the kind of girl who you want so much it makes you sorry, still you don't regret a single day. And then you try so many times to leave her, and then she starts to cry, and she promises you the earth, and you believe her, and still you don't know why. And like I'm paraphrasing the song there, but and it's hard to say how much these songs are actually biographical for them and how much they are just stories. But if you look at them as a story song, it's a great story. It's basically like this guy, he falls in love with this girl, and there's some deep problems in the relationship. Like she puts him down all the time, and he's working hard to give her all that she wants, and she doesn't seem to appreciate it. Of course, it's from a guy's perspective. Like it'd be interesting to hear the girl's perspective in that, but like it's just this soft voice of Lennon, and then it's a beautiful song. I mean, beautiful. Maybe beautiful is a bit much. It's a perfect song, let's say that way. It's not a beautiful song, but it's a perfect song. So, 10 out of 10. All right. I believe there might be a few more songs. Okay, now we have another Paul McCartney joint called I'm Looking Through You. Um, and it's kind of like a companion to You Won't See Me, because basically it seems like the narrator has kind of soured on that relationship entirely, and he's like better, he's gone. Like, um, I'm looking through you, and you've changed, and basically like he's better. Um, I don't know. It's one of those Paul McCartney things that, on the one hand, seems pretty deep and shallow at the same time because it's basically like, I'm better than you, bye bye. But like, it's got a nice harmony. It's got nice vocal arrangements. So I'm gonna say 7. 7. All right, next song. Okay, the next song is In My Life. And John Lennon apparently considered this one of his first major works, but I'm not sure if he wrote it before a song like Girl or Norwegian Wood. Um, and I'm trying to pinpoint my problem with this song. And it's not exactly a problem per se, because the song works for what it is. It's sort of this nostalgic exploration of Lennon's youth, and it's contrasting it with his life today. And he's like, I'll never lose affection for them, but I love you now. And it kind of works that way. And the production is great, of course. And there's this um, harpsichord that Paul Martin plays in the middle that kind of lends to the whole nostalgic vibe. But I think the problem I have with it, and it's going to be a strange problem to have, is that it's not a repeatable song. Like the melody doesn't work its way in your mind like some of the other songs on this album. Even songs that I personally criticize, like Nowhere Man, everyone knows the melody to Nowhere Man, right? But this song, like, I think even if I took like a big Beatles fan and I said, sing In My Life right now, they'd be like, no, it'd be hard because the melody it's not it doesn't it's not a pop song. Oh, maybe that's the criticism. It's not a repeatable pop song that gets in your head with the melody. Even like very sophisticated pop songs like Norwegian Wood or Girl, they have these melodies that are earworms and get stuck in your head. But in my life, I don't think that. So I know this is gonna shock again, but I'm gonna give it like a five. Because I think a song to be successful is one that you have to be able to replicate by yourself when you're not listening to the album. Okay, next song. Okay, the next song is a Lennon song called Wait, and I don't know. I don't have strong feelings about it, but it's a very forgettable song, I think. Uh Yeah, I'm trying to like I just literally listened to it 2 seconds ago, and I'm trying to like think about anything memorable about the song. I think it's filler. It's kind of a filler song, which is a weird thing to say, but I don't know how long they had to make this album, but probably like a month or something like that. So this is the song they put on as filler, and it doesn't even have the interest of being sung by Ringo or something. So I'm gonna give this a 1 out of 10. Not because it's a bad, horrible song, just because it's forgettable. All right, next song. Okay, the next song is If I Needed Someone, and I think it's better than Wait. It's a George Harrison number, I believe, because he's the lead singer. The harmonies are good, but it also feels a little bit forgettable. Like, yeah, yeah. I mean, the harmonies are better than Wait, but it's forgettable, which is which is dragging me down. Like, I'm thinking about my review for the whole album, and I think it's gonna be a little bit shocking for people. But I think I have one more song to go. All right, next song. Okay, the last song on the album is one called Run for Your Life. And I think from not just a modern perspective, but I think from one point of view, it's a horrible song because it's like the line is what is the line? The line is uh, I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man. And basically, throughout the song, he's threatening her and telling her that if she's unfaithful, she better run away because he's gonna catch her. And so, on the one hand, it's kind of sinister. But on the other hand, I think it's a little bit of a joke because the music is like really cheerful and it's got like this country twang, and in the harmony they don't just say this is the end, that's the end, like that it would be in a normal song where the person is kind of serious. They go like it's the end. Like it's kind of like ridiculous and over the top. I think that this is kind of the character who is treated seriously in Norwegian Wood, who like burns the furniture. Here it's treated as a joke. So I think it's pretty clever, and I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10. So to wrap up my review of the whole thing, I'm gonna recap everything. So Drive My Car, I think I gave it a 7. It's an okay rock song. Norwegian Wood, 10 out of 10, a perfect Beatles song. You Won't See Me, uh, kind of a kind of a complaining, immature song, but I think I gave it a 7. And Nowhere Man, I don't like it. I think it's pretentious. I gave it like a 2, I believe. Think for yourself. Um, it's also pretentious, but it's much better than Nowhere Man. It's got a great, good distorted guitar sound, so I gave that one, I think, an 8. The Word, another great song. about the concept of love from Lennon. I gave that a 10. Michelle, it's a classic pop song that probably sold a lot of records, but I gave it a 5. What Goes On is Ringo's country thing. I gave it like a 4, or maybe it was a 6. I think it was a 6. It's enjoyable. Girl, a another great Lennon song, a great story song, very catchy, very repetitive and great. So I gave that, I think, a 10 out of 10. I'm Looking Through You, great melody. I think I gave that 7. In My Life, I gave like a 5 because I don't think it's a pop song. I think it's like a work of art, which why am I critical if something is a work of art? Because I think like music needs something to be, it needs to be repeatable, and I don't think In My Life is. Wait, I gave 1 out of 10. It's a filler. If I Needed Someone, um, I also think it was a filler, but I gave it a 3. And Run for Your Life, I gave an 8 out of 10. So as a whole, I'm gonna say the highs of the album are really, really high, like Norwegian Wood and Girl. And the middle of the album is also really good, like I'm Looking Through You and You Won't See Me are also excellent standouts. Think for Yourself is good, but I think that the lows of the album are just, they're not bad, but they're forgettable, like Wait and If I Needed Someone. So I'm gonna say 7. It's a 7. 7 out of 10 is my rating for Rubber Soul. Thank you for listening to this long-winded explanation of what I think about Rubber Soul. What do you think about Rubber Soul? Put your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to help me out, like the video, subscribe, and all of that jazz, or all that Beatles. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.